Mm-hmm. And then you ask around or you start hearing, you the problem? Oh, no, they say you this. Oh, you do this.
Question. So at what point did your teachers feel safe to come in and tell you were the
Really
problem?
care. So absolutely, because now I ain't even seen you in 2 months.
Right.
And you just pop up
Not so many helping hands when I came into childcare. You know, the Latrice Crawfords and the Brandy Woods and Chris Murray.
I
There
didn't know
wasn't
about it. Chris Murray, I think she still wasn't really around.
or now. Like you said, there are so many mother-daughter duos, sister duos,
Yes,
and people feel stuck with their
own
relatives and their
relationship with each staff. And I'm gonna be honest, I have not in a long time had a staff member go.
realize that
"That's
you
her."
need to get them out that role immediately, because it's one thing to have someone who performs so well publicly and, oh, but she seems so nice and she does. Hey, my friends, this is me, Coach Stacey B, here with another episode of the Childcare Teachers Chronicles. And if you all could see the smile on my face, because it is sweet treat I have today, I am sitting here with the Latrice Crawford, the childcare chick, and she had the time to grace our couch and come speak to us about this early education field.
Yay.
Hey, Miss Crawford, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. So I usually do a whole introduction and tell the audience about who I'm interviewing, but I like to give you all the opportunity to pop your own collar. I know you've been in early education for almost 20 years, but there's
Yes.
so much that goes along with that. So tell the audience a little bit more about you.
Okay, great. So I am Latrice Crawford. Now I'm known as the childcare chick. I have owned Kidsville Learning Academy for almost 18 years now. We are celebrating next week, 18 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm a wife. I've been married for 17 years. I'm a mom of 3. I am a childcare coach. I have a conference, a community, and I am just continuing to grow in this early childhood education space, and I love it.
She's the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. She left that out.
All of that. All of that.
But let me tell you what I just love about your introduction in telling who you are and what you do. You made sure to add that you are continuing to grow in early childhood. And that is so important. I just want to highlight that because, you know, me and Coach Jamara, we talked before and we laugh how everybody a coach now. Everybody a coach.
Yeah.
People get a little bit of knowledge and they're a coach now. And they won't coach everybody.
Yes.
But we often find that people do not pour into themselves, continue to. I don't want no coach who don't have a coach.
You gotta have your own coach. Yes, every coach needs a coach.
Every coach needs a coach.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you being vulnerable and saying that you are continuing to learn and thrive and grow in this field. So I wanted to talk to you today. We know that you have your conference Born to Teach 2 coming up, right?
Yay! Yes, July 10th through the 13th. And guess who will be there? I'm excited about you coming and pouring into all of the teachers there. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, you reached out to me some months ago and gave me the opportunity to present to your mastermind there in New Orleans, which was I so appreciated that, and I'm so glad that you all invited me back.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to kill it for you.
I know you're gonna kill it. Listen, what I saw in New Orleans, I was like, before we even finished, I reached it over and I said, like, I want her to teach. Your energy is contagious.
That. Well, I'm very dedicated and true to this field. I have no hidden agenda but to pour into teachers. So that makes me excited to be on the teacher track at Born to Teach too. But talking about teachers, you know, you kind of get around there in the childcare world. You dabble with the owners, you dabble with the directors, the teachers, the everybody, right?
Yes.
And so we want to talk about that toxic work environment.
Okay.
We find that centers are still struggling with toxic work environments in childcare, but specifically when leadership is the problem.
Ooh, let me tell you. I know a little bit about that. I see it all of the time. And I'll be honest, I'm very transparent. I used to be one of them when I first started.
Do tell.
Oh yeah. When I first started, I was horrible. I blamed everybody but me. A lot of times I believe that childcare owners and leaders don't like to look at themselves. You know what Michael Jackson say? Look at the man in the mirror. And I don't think we like to do that. So it's easier to put the blame on everybody else. But I feel like everything starts at the top. Everything starts at the top. And so I had to learn how to be a better leader, a better person that communicated, because when I was my door was revolving. The work, it was, people hated coming to work. You can feel it. You know, you can feel the tense in the building. And I would come in with that same energy. And so if I walk in with that energy, they're looking at me like, and so now they if I'm talking about people and I had to learn what the words I spoke, they were listening.
Right.
If
Right.
I had to walk it like I talked it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just made my whole culture and my work environment very toxic in my early years.
I think what's so ironic about what you're saying, I also had that moment of what what happens is some of us get in a position of ownership and leadership and we don't know how to ask for help, or we look as if we're failing if we ask for help. We don't want people to see what's hiding behind the door or what's swept up under our closet, right? And so when we don't step out and say, I need a community, I need help, I need support, we just breathe a toxic work environment. So to one, recognize that you ain't got all your ish together and you may need help is going to be key. But two, knowing, like you said, what you spoke, your teacher spoke. How your attitude you walked in that building with, that's how your attitude, that's how their attitude was. And it kept a revolving door. So let me ask you, have you ever been blindsided by issues you didn't know existed in your center?
Well, yeah, you think everybody happy? You think you killing it as a leader, right? And then you ask around or you start hearing, you the problem? Oh no, they say you this. Oh, you do this, you do that, and you're like, dang, I thought y'all was happy.
Right. I thought I did
a good job. And then you start reevaluating yourself. Well, maybe I do that. And so I have been blindsided by thinking I was a good leader when I really wasn't. And I had to sit down, talk to my staff. I think so. Yes, I had to sit down and really communicate with my staff. I think communication is going to be a big issue when we're talking about a toxic work environment, and if you're trying to fix it. So when I found out that I was the problem, that I was the reason they didn't, like coming to work, I really sat down, and it was very hard conversations to hear. And at first they didn't want to tell me, but I said, no, I want to be better. I want to be better. A lot of times it's hard to say I'm the problem. I want to be better.
Right.
And I sat down with each one of them and figured out what was I doing wrong. They were like, well, you come in, you don't even speak. Noted.
Okay.
You come in, you always have an attitude. Noted. Like some of the things that they were telling me, I didn't realize I was doing. And so I was blindsided by that, and I worked on fixing that because I didn't like the revolving door.
Right.
I didn't like my staff coming in and it felt so tense. I didn't like the looks on their faces like they're here, but they don't want to be here.
Right.
And I didn't like that because that affects the whole entire business.
Right.
Not just the teachers and the culture, it affects the business.
The whole business, the bottom
and so
line.
I had to get it together.
So you actually kind of went into my next question. So at what point did your teachers feel safe to come in and tell you were the problem? How did you create that space for them?
So I pretty much told them what I saw when in a staff meeting. I was like, I recognize this, and this, and I want to figure out how we can be better because this is my goal. This is the culture I want to create. And I explained that to them. And if you really want to be here, I want to fix it.
Right.
And I told them the only way I can fix things, and I tell my staff this to this day, if I don't know about it, I can't fix it.
Right.
I don't read minds. And I had to let them know that being honest with me was the only way we could fix it. Again, some were still very hesitant or very light, but for the most part, I got what I needed. I had enough to know what I needed to do to fix it, and a lot of it was working on me.
And so when you said you were able to have those conversations and let them come talk to you, as you said, some just don't trust it. Some are not going to be able to say, oh, well, this is how I really feel. So were there any systems you put in place to kind of check the temperature and the culture of your center?
So even now I'm an offsite owner, but before, when I was really checking the culture and the temperature, I would have these one-on-one meetings with every person, and I would do it monthly. Like monthly, I would sit down and talk to them. I put that in place on purpose, and to this day, I have my director do it. And I still do it as an offsite owner. I go in one-on-one, very relaxed environment, bring them out and just chat. And I make them feel comfortable too, because I'm a big relationship builder. Relationships first, and I think building relationships is so key. Once I really start learning that building relationships with them is so key, it can't always be business as usual.
Right.
So sometimes it took building the relationship. How are you? How was your weekend? How's your kids? Just really just having a conversation with them, getting them to trust me and know that I care about you as a person too. Yes, you're an employee, but I also really care about you. And once I was able to build that trust and I start putting those systems in place where we meet on a regular basis, our staff meetings became more frequent. Our one-on-ones became more frequent. We put a person in place that was our liaison where they can go to this one person with any issues, and they anonymously would write it, and that person would come to us. So we never knew who said it. So we put that in place because it's like you said, it's always the ones that everybody don't feel comfortable telling you. They're gonna just tell you everything's fine. When it's not. But when I put it in place where it was anonymous, another thing we started doing is surveys, anonymous staff surveys. That way, there's another way you can vent or say, how you feel without me knowing who it really was, but I can take into consideration what you said and see how we can put things in place to address it and to fix it. So that really helped when they felt safe and comfortable to be, and they saw that I was really fixing it. That's the key. Sometimes we listen, we ask, what do you think? What should we do? What is it? And you don't do nothing about it. But when they saw that I was really trying to fix and rebuild, they saw that. And then they started to change. As I started to change, they started to change. And the ones that didn't fell off.
The ones who didn't fell off. One thing you said was very important. You said that you started to build relationships with them. I think that there's still a great divide in the early education field where it's the check your personal at the door, or it's the let me be more personal with you, right? And to be honest, childcare is a relationship field.
Yes.
I mean, we build relationships with the children, we build relationships with the parents, we build relationships with our coworkers. So we cannot expect for us as owners to draw a hard line in the sand with building relationships with our staff, right?
Absolutely. It's a fine line. And people ask me this all the time when they see me now as a leader in action with my staff. Like, how do you do that? If I do that and they think we're friends and this and that. And I said, well, it's a fine line, but my staff respects me enough to know that we can go to dinner as a group and laugh and all that. But on Monday, if you ain't doing what you do, you be fired before you even clock in.
That's because I'm not your friend.
Because I'm not, and they understand that when we are doing work events and things like that, yes, I am gonna have a good time with you guys because I like to build relationships, and one of our core values is fun. So we are gonna have fun, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I am still your boss.
That's right.
And we have that fine line, and they respect that. And when owners tell me that, I'm like, you're missing somewhere. They're not respecting you somewhere. But my staff respect me enough to know that, we going to do this today. But on Monday, when I clock in, it's back to work.
So you said something that I want to revisit towards the end of this conversation, but I'm going to bring it up now so you can remind me. You said that you are now an off-site owner. And I think it's so powerful that you can sit on this couch and talk about your journey from having a toxic work environment to now being an off-site owner and not having those problems. But you did say you realized that some of it was you. So how did it feel when you had to sit down and admit, okay, I am the problem? What type of steps did you do to self-regulate and make those changes within yourself?
Yes. So it was a very hard conversation that I had to have with myself, especially when I thought I was doing everything right. But when I look back at it, I had never been taught how to be a leader. I had a job. Nobody in my family ever owned a business. So I was learning too. So when I realized that, I got myself in some classes and started attending more leadership events, reading books on leadership and doing different things to build myself up. And I just started being intentional about working on these things and working on me every single time I went in the building. When they told me I didn't speak, I wasn't a morning person. I still ain't, but I know how to fake it now. But then I didn't, but when they told me, you come in, you look mad, you don't speak, I made every intention to walk in, fix my face and smile. I made sure that they felt seen going by. Even now to this day, as offsite, the first thing I do, they know I'm gonna put my purse down, grab me some coffee, and I'm gonna walk through my whole building and speak to everybody and not just hi and keep going. How are you? How was your weekend? You know, your kids doing okay?
Right.
You know, you still happy in here? And you kids, anything I can do to support you? I do that with every single one of them. And once a month, I actually sit down with them and do that. And so I started doing little things like that, but I did have to be more intentional about the change that I wanted to make and just pouring into myself and really figuring out how to be a better leader, because again, I sucked because I didn't know how. Nobody taught me that.
Give me a second.
Is a piece. I think I feel it. Yeah. Nobody taught me how to be a leader. So I had to really work on being intentional about being a better leader, just like pouring into myself and learning. And like when you said from the beginning, every coach need a coach. I needed some help. And so I did start just seeking out help online, books, people, getting in different groups, reading, just trying to better myself and be a better me.
Well, and what's funny about that is, so you have been owning almost 18 years, coming up on 18 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary with It Takes a Village. And what's so funny is, when I know it was like this when I started 10 years ago. So I know you had to have this same problem when you started 18 years ago. There was not so many helping hands when I came into childcare. You know, the Latrice Crawfords and the Brandy Woods and Chris Murrays, there wasn't all. Well, I heard that there was Chris Murray, but I didn't know about it.
Chris Murray, I think she still wasn't really around. Yeah. She might be in it about the time I came in.
Okay. I'm okay. But from what I heard, Chris Murray wasn't in all the circles, right? No. So she wasn't somebody who was gonna pop up on my timeline or my MySpace
Maybe
page,
that was
right?
what it was.
Right. So my question is, as I said, a lot of times some of these owners do not know how to fix themselves or correct themselves. And you even talk about some blind spots you had, you know, being able to realize from these communications with your staff, some of your blind spots. They wanted you to come in and speak. You had no idea that was a problem that they had.
And I had the nerve to tell them to speak to parents and smile when they walked in, but I wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta lead. You gotta show them. You know, you gotta go in every day. I go in and I act the way I want them to act.
Just like they have to model for the children,
you
have to model for them.
And I wasn't doing that. I said, now how I'm gonna sit here once they check me?
And then you had to check yourself. I said,
no, I tell them every day when the parents come in, you need to greet them. You need to smile, but I don't even greet you and smile.
Now that's something to really sit back and let sink in. And the reason I wanted to harp on this a little bit more, because some owners may say, oh, they don't have the support, or they don't know how to find the support. There is so many avenues out here, so much stuff at your fingertips. If you want it, you're gonna go find it.
Because it's everywhere. And what you said was 18 years ago, it was no one. It was a couple little conferences that they would have pop up here and there. They'd be once a year, twice a year, and they were very small. And you can go to them, but other than that, you couldn't ask your neighbor because they looking at you like, I'm
like
helping you because you trying.
Children.
Yeah, so you really, my era, I figured it out on my own. But I tell owners now, it's no excuse. It is no excuse. I don't have the money. That's not even an excuse. Facebook groups are free.
Right.
It's so many free resources, so many free trainings. So, I mean, and then investing in yourself is not always going to be free.
Right.
You know, it may cost you a little bit to invest in yourself. So you have to change the mindset thinking, I can't afford that. Well, you can't afford not to have it.
Right.
At this point, especially if your staff turnover is crazy, your work environment is toxic, your culture's bad, because that is going to affect your entire business when you see that. So I agree. It's no excuse now. It's too many resources out there, whether free or paid, for you to help and have that support and to help you with the things that you don't know.
Right. And I tell people all the time, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Never, ever. And I say some of my greatest ideas came from somebody else.
Absolutely.
You only gonna know better and do better when you put yourself in different rooms. Yeah. And we expect that from our teachers. We often want them to go to different trainings and conferences and events and things like that. But some of the leaders or owners do not do it themselves, and they are helping to keep that toxic work environment going. But let me ask you, what are some behaviors from directors or leaders or leadership teams that you believe may destroy the morale of your team?
So I think a lot of owners and leaders take their personal and businesses. This is hard, right? This industry, being a director, a owner, a leader, it's not very easy. And I think a lot of times we tell them to leave their problems at home, but they bring their problems in there. So you come in attitude. You engage in the gossip with your staff. You walking around talking about Johnny's mom and this and that, and then you hear your teachers do it and you're mad at her. Well, she just heard you doing the same thing, you know. And I think that we as owners and leaders, we have to model what we expect. And with a lot of younger childcare, I see a lot of younger owners and directors coming into the industry. Another thing that I see is they want to be everybody's friend. And so when you when you become their friend, you lose a lot of, sometimes they lose respect. And then they're no longer looked at as their leader. And so then you got to say something to them. Now they mad at you because y'all was just out last night. Now they come in and guess what they're doing? Gossiping and telling everybody else. And now everybody mad, everybody looking at you. So I think as leaders, whether you're director and owners, you have to really model it. Whatever you want to see from your staff, you have to do. You want them to leave their problems at home, you leave yours at home. You want them to greet and smile to parents, you need to greet and smile. You want them to look professional, you need to come in look. You want them not to gossip, you stop gossiping. So I think I see a lot of what they want to see from their staff, but they don't do it. And then they're going to say that. How's she going to tell us to come in and be, you know, all perfect? Look at how she look. How's she going to tell us don't gossip? And all every time I look around, she in so-and-so classroom gossiping.
I had a leader, center supervisor, write up a teacher for having her phone on her. What she say? She keep telling them, don't bring your phone to class, don't bring your phone to class. So she wrote her up for having the phone. Baby, that girl couldn't wait to get to me. MsStaceyB, let me tell you, she wrote me up from having my phone. But when she covered the lunches for us on break time, she's sitting in the classroom on FaceTime. Now I know, which I do allow my leaders to keep their phone because we do communicate by cell phone at times. But her thing was, if I can't have my phone, why you sitting in the classroom on FaceTime?
And you just said during nap we have to be monitoring, supervising the children, so we can't have our phone. But you're not doing it. Stuff like that. They watch everything. They watch, and then they start getting upset because now you think you can do it. So even me as the owner, I do not walk around with my phone. You know, I would not be in a classroom on my phone. And I'm the owner. When I go in, I'm going to do exactly what I expect them to do.
So being the owner, have you ever had a toxic leader in your environment?
So to be honest, I have a really unique situation. I've only had 2 leaders and they're still there in 18 years.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Yes, I said unique because it don't happen all the time. My director has been with me. She hits her 18th anniversary 2 weeks after we hit 18 next week.
Oh, congratulations
and
to
then
her.
so she's been with me since the beginning.
You're gonna get a pink Cadillac. Watch.
That's she on her way. You know, this past year she got a trip. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for her 18th.
You're gonna get that pink Cadillac.
She deserves it. And then my assistant director, which my director now used to be my assistant director when I was the director, the new assistant director, she tomorrow makes 9 years.
Oh wow.
So my lead, and then I have a curriculum coordinator. She's been with me 12. Them are my only leaders. When I first started, it was just me, my mom, and my niece. And then my director now became my assistant director.
Did you have to fire your mom?
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, so many times until the last straw. I said, "That's it.
You cannot come back.
You cannot come back." I had my daughter's 10 now, but when I had her, I was like, "I got the perfect job for you. You can just be the nanny.
Stay at home with your daughter."
Because we were into it all the time. We laugh at it now, but it was bad. And when I hear the stories, when I coach people, my mama worked there. Oh my gosh, she don't listen. I'll be like,
that's why I highlighted this. We had Miss LJ Henderson on, and she said the same thing. When she opened it, was her and her mom, and then she said, until I had to fire her.
I did.
Because she was a problem for me. And I had to highlight it then like I'm doing now. Like you said, there are so many mother-daughter doers, sister-sister doers, and people feel stuck with their relatives in their organization. If it's causing a strain or problem at work, if it's causing a strain or problem in your personal life, let them go.
But it's very hard. I used to call my dad crying and I say, I can't do this. And he would say, fire her. I said, that's not that easy. My mom lives with me. You know, she's become like our nanny granny. But I would go home. We would literally leave the center. How do you write your mama up? I mean, I have, but then she would tear it up in my
right,
face.
Right.
She don't care.
No, it don't mean nothing.
And then we get home and we both mad at each other.
Right.
It just started being I'm my mom's old school. She was my best employee though.
That's what Miss LJ said.
It was
Old
nothing.
school
She
mom,
would back.
yeah.
She opened, closed, toilets, the stuff that I was like, ew, she would do. But she was stuck in her ways. And as I continue to elevate and want to make this the best, most quality, the thing in our community, my mama wasn't gonna be able to go. She wasn't gonna be able to go. So yes, my mom, it was just us as the leader. And then so I have not had a toxic leader. Now my director, she gonna kill me for this. She was not my director for years because she's my assistant director, but she didn't know how to talk to people. She needed some help. Right. She would pop off. She needed a little polishing. Yes, but she was dedicated. She was loyal. She was a great worker. And I saw something in her as I continued to grow. And I said, if you want this spot, this is what you got to work on. And she did. Been the best. If I didn't want to go to my center the whole rest of the year, I didn't have to. You don't have to. And nothing's going to last. I know the feeling. And when I say nothing, nothing. They not going to get around and sit and kick their feet up and let me, none of that is going to lack. But having a toxic leader, no. And when she became the director, that was one of the things we talked about, is how to continue to grow. I continue to pour into her. She's in a class right now. I always put her in classes and keep her in mentorship programs, send her to leadership conferences, because I want her to be the best leader for my program. Because she took over, we still have a lot of the same staff. Most of our staff are the same, because I have taught her how to be a great leader, and she doesn't engage in that toxic mess. And when we have some drama, she addresses it right then. We don't let it linger.
So how do you separate personal loyalty from doing what's best for your team?
So another one with her. And I can use her as an example. So I have had one other director, and my director wasn't ready. I told you, she just couldn't do it. And so the lady that was my other assistant director, she'd only been there 3 years. I promoted her, and I cried because it was like the gossip in my center. Like, oh my gosh, she's been loyal to her for 10, 12 years, and then but I knew personally, I would have loved to give it to her. Right. But I run a business. Right. A big business. Right. And it was no way she could do it at the state she was in and the person she was then. And we had to have a really hard conversation about it, because I didn't want her to be hit blindsided. And I had to tell her, I want to give it to you. You ain't ready. And this gonna hurt you and me. But I'm promoting her. We both cried. She didn't like it.
But they helped her get her stuff together.
Because she didn't know what was going to happen to my other director. She wound up moving away back to where she was from. And I said, what you going to do?
You ready?
What you going to do? But that was one time that I had to put the business over personal. Personally, yes. Even my family was like, you're not going to give it to her. I said, no, I can't.
But so that kind of goes into the next thing I want to know. How do you or even your leadership staff address favoritism or double standards, amongst your team?
Ooh. We always gonna say no favorites, right? We're gonna say that. No favorites with the kids. Everybody got a favorite.
Somebody got somebody they love that they won't take home every day.
And it's really like that with the staff. But my team has done a really great job of not showing it.
Okay.
I always tell my teachers, for me, I don't have favorites, but I do have a different relationship with everybody.
It's like your children.
Like your children. We just had this conversation the other day with my kids. It's like, who the favorite? I'm like, I love y'all different.
Right.
Okay. But it is like that. I've had staff with me 10 years and some 30 days. Of course, our relationship is different. I have a staff member who's outgoing. So yeah, you may see me TikToking with her in the hallway because she allows that. I have another staff member barely talk. And I have to, it's like pulling teeth in it. So, I just try to tell them, build your own relationship with each staff. And I'm going to be honest, I have not in a long time had a staff member go, that's her favorite. My director real good at that, because my director, when she clock out,
she done.
Yeah. She don't hang out with them and things like that, because she likes to keep it. She is very great with them at work, but she's like, I don't ever want to have to cross that boundary with them. So I think everybody just builds their own relationship, and I think they don't call it favoritism because everybody has their own relationship with each staff. As far as my leadership team, this ain't my favorite, but we might do some things different than you than I do with you, because that's just not your personality. And so we haven't had a problem with favorites, but I would just say if anybody is having that problem, just build your own relationship with them. If you start showing favorites, that's going to create to that toxic work environment, just like the kids. So you're going to have to, if you buy one some cookies, just come in with all of them some cookies, unless you can say, make this announcement. Hey, today is Miss Stacey's birthday, or yesterday Miss Stacey was rocking in her class, and so I brought her a Starbucks today, because that's different. But if you just come in, hey girl, you want some cookies today, and every day you got her a Starbucks and nobody else, that's different. So I think creating that relationship with each staff member, and if you are doing something for one person, let it be known why, so it won't be a problem.
Because as we say, they sit back and watch everything.
And when I say everything.
So that brings me to the next point, and maybe not in your center right now, because you have definitely worked hard at cultivating a good leadership team, or maybe this was when you were the problem. But what's your process for when a teacher brings forward a complaint about a toxic leader in your culture?
Yes. So of course, my leadership is me as the executive, my director, assistant director. So if it becomes where it's my director is the problem, they're able to come to me, and we are to have this conversation. Depending on what it is, I don't always say who said it. But depending on what it is, I may have to say, we're going to have a conversation, or we're going to have a meeting together to address it, because I'm big at fixing the problem. We work in too small of an environment to let stuff like that linger. But we do have, we have like a chain of command. If the teacher has a problem with anybody in my leadership team besides my director, they go to my director. If they have a problem with her, they come to me. And if my two leaders under her have a problem with her, they come to me. But again, my situation is really unique because the few problems they have, they fix it among each other. It don't even usually get to me, which is something I've been able to teach them how to do. Like, y'all been working together for 10 plus years. Y'all need me for something petty. We all adults.
Don't call me for that.
I know y'all did. And they kind of fixed it, but that goes back to, as the head, how do you lead? And they follow that pattern, as well. So we do have a chain of command, though, because I want everybody to feel like, I don't want anyone to ever feel like, I can't go to Miss Gal, Miss Tradina gets to do what she want to do. I don't have to go to Miss Gal. They know that if you have a problem that's with her, come to me. And if it's valid, we're going to address it, because nobody's perfect.
So have you ever received a complaint that made you think, oh shit, maybe things are not running the way I thought they were?
Not with this director.
Okay.
My last one, yes. Not so much with this one. And the times that someone has said something, it really, some people, you just,
emotional
sometimes it just, she didn't give you your day off. Now you mad.
She don't like me, but she like her.
But she like, no, I haven't with this. But with my last director, yes, I used to think things were running, and I'm not gonna lie, my director talks about this now, because she's like, I used to tell you. I used to tell you. She was the assistant then. She was like, she didn't want to listen. And I was in a very tight situation because they were clashing, but I'm like, I used to tell her, she is still your superior. And so it was very tough. I thought it was going great, but I started seeing teachers leave more than usual. I started having to talk to parents a little bit more. And I realized that my past director was amazing. Still talks to her today. Amazing. She was just very, and sometimes that's good, but sometimes that's not. You don't have no wiggle room. And nobody's perfect. Not even you. And so I did have to step back in. And the crazy part is, when she left, I stepped back in for a year. In 2000, COVID, right after COVID, she left. I stepped back in for 1 year because my culture was getting a little toxic between COVID and the things that were going on. I wasn't there. I can go in, and I felt and so I said, I got 1 year. That's the time I told my director, you got 1 year to get it together if you want this position. I stepped back in for a year, built it back up, built the culture back up. And that was in 2001, maybe 2001. Been going ever since.
So talk to the people who's 2020. Listening.
21, not 2001, 2020 and 21. Yes.
Talk to some of your owners and leaders who's listening about the process of waiting too long to address issues that come to you.
Yes. So just like if a kid falls, you want to tell their mama that same day?
You're supposed to.
You need to, because I've had a teacher bring me a report like that, a discipline report. 2 days later, I said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" Right. He did this on Monday. Right. You might as well throw it in the trash. Same thing with your teachers. Right. If you let a problem linger, it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you can address it head on as soon as it happens, chances are you can address that thing right then, get past it, come up with a plan. If it requires a plan of action, talk to the parties involved, and everybody can go. But if a week then pass, you knew now they really mad, now they mad at everybody, now the situation is just getting bigger, it's going to be very hard to diffuse. So if you know of a situation in your center that needs to be address it. I understand that as new owners, I coach a lot of people that some people don't have that backbone, and I tell them I was real soft when I started too, but business made me hard. Right. They don't like confrontation. As a leader, it's something you can't avoid. You cannot avoid it. Some confrontation is very hard. Some conversations I hate to have too, but you have to have them, and that is part of being a leader. You have to have them.
So what would you say to those who have leaders or directors who's great with children, but not so good with other adults?
They shouldn't be a director or leader. That I'm going to just keep it a buck, because I know people, we just talked about this at the mastermind. Stop hiring because you don't want to be in there. And you're like, she good with kids. Yeah, that managing a classroom and managing grown people are totally different ball games. So if they are not a good person with adults, they should not be in charge of your business, period. And I think we get so caught up in they're loyal, they here every day, and she keep her classroom going, and then you just throw them. A lot of times you throw them in the position they don't even want it.
They don't want it.
Didn't even earn it. Yeah. They been here. That's why they here on time every day. It's not a good enough reason. And so if they cannot address those hard conversations or cannot deal well with adults, they cannot be your director. They have to deal with parents. They could be adults. Parents ain't always easy to deal with. You gotta have a lot of hard conversations with them. Teachers, you gotta have a lot of hard conversations with them. You know, whoever else is coming in your business as touring, licensing, all these things, if you are not a great communicator with adults, you should not be the director or assistant director at a childcare center.
And as you say, when you realize that, you need to get them out that role immediately, because it's one thing to have someone who performs so well publicly and, but she seems so nice and she does so great with the children, but she could be causing internal damage in your organization, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not big on demoting. So when people ask me, that's just my personal thing. But people say, I have a teacher, I made her the director, I'm putting her back in the classroom. Yeah, she about to ruin your whole. First of all, they're gonna be talking about her like, and it's about you gonna have to let her go.
Same here. I don't play because it just causes more problems.
It causes more problems. Yep.
And then we find that we have some who are really good with the children but has problems with the adults, and then we leave them on too long, and then it just festers and grows into the even more toxic work environment.
I tell people all the time, be slow to hire and quick to fire. Yeah. I don't care how good. I've had parents come to me and say, perfect example, I had this one employee, older lady, great with the kids. Oh, she can be great with the kids, and she can, that 5 minutes she see them parents, she can woo them. But after that, all you do is gossip. The work environment is nobody can stand to work with you. And I said, she got to go. I don't care how good. She here every day, on time, super early, stay late, come in when you need her to. But she was not a great team player and a great fit. So we let her go. My parents, we loved her. She was so good with our kids. And I would say, you know what? She was an amazing teacher, but she was a horrible employee. Right. And you got to be more than a good teacher to work for me, because she was coming in running everybody, and she had to go. I don't care how. And so sometimes you have, as a leader, we have to make hard decisions. It's either ruin the other 25 staff I have, or let this one go. And I don't care how good she is, unless she's in a 2-year-old room. I might keep her a little longer.
Because them 2-year-olds, I just said they gangsters.
I might keep them a little. No, but you have to let them go, and you have to be able to cut your losses. For me, you got to be more than just a good teacher to work for me.
And you definitely have to figure out that balance between loyalty for a teacher and protecting the culture of your centers.
Yes. If you ever want it to continue to run and to have this great work environment, you have to it's a fine line. Like being a great teacher, but creating chaos. You can find another teacher. I know it's hard. People think it's hard to hire. It's people out there that want to work.
So let me ask you, we talked about there are so many things now out here for directors and leaders and owners to get into that help them, build better cultures and environments, right? So do you think some owners unintentionally contribute to toxic environments by being disconnected from their staff and their daily operations?
I definitely think owners, especially a lot of offsite owners or owners that, hate to say it, they just don't care. They open the center and go on about their life. And then you only come in when you need to, or something's not right. And you expect them to respect you. You expect them to really, really care. So absolutely, because now I ain't even seen you in 2 months.
Right.
And you just pop up this with complaints after we've been holding it down for these 2 months. And now everybody is upset.
Right.
And then they're gossiping again when you leave. And so when you leave, it's like the work environment, you came in and it shook them up.
Right.
Now everybody's upset. So I think you have to, even as an offsite owner, I still make it a point to be connected.
Right.
I'm going to, my parents still know who I know. They can't call me, can't ask me nothing. It's a chain of command. But I make it a point certain days of the month to just pop up and greet parents.
Yeah.
Coming and going. Certain days of the month, I'm popping up just to talk to my staff, play with the kids, build relationships, see the new faces. And that means a lot. I don't think as an owner, me personally, you should never be that disconnected from your business. People ask me all the time, I just want to open a childcare center, but I don't want to do nothing. I just want to open it and I want to walk away. That's it. I just want to open it. For me, that is not what I suggest. I suggest that you still have some connections to your business, because at the end of the day, it's yours. And you as the head, you definitely you can make or break the business as well, and the culture and the environment, because they're looking at you as well.
That's what I was gonna ask. So, like, what advice would you give the hands-off owners, who wants to build those trust and relationships? But you kind of just answered that. You have to be connected.
Still stay connected. I'm not saying you got to go in there every day. I'm not even saying you got to go work. They tell me I come play too much.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Here she come playing. But I come in excited, because when they see me excited, when I walk in, they're excited to see me. All of them. I come in and I just stay connected. It's my business at the end of the day.
Right.
So I always want to know what's going on. I ain't that disconnected. And I think if you want to be an offsite owner, that's great. I love being an offsite owner, but I also still have my hands in my business. I'm still connected not only with my leadership team, but with every team member there. I have a new team member that I went the week before spring break, and I was introducing myself, and she's like, I seen you, I know you, I heard a lot about you. I said, what you hear?
Right.
And she said, I heard that you are an amazing leader, but you don't play about your business. And I said, they said that? And she was like, yeah, she said, but everybody has bragged about how amazing as a leader you are. And I'm off-site.
Yeah.
And I'm off-site. But when I'm there, I make it count.
Right.
And when I'm there, I make it count.
You also went back and did the hard work of resetting that foundation.
Absolutely.
Reestablishing that culture, right? And so, again, like I said, we're going to bounce back to that on how you were able to become an off-site owner and still have your loyalty and things running smoothly. But let me ask you, have you ever had to rebuild your center's culture because it went toxic?
Yes. This was probably about 10 years ago, and we laugh at it now. My teachers are still there because I was so mad, and I went in one day and I had a staff meeting and I just went off that. Don't do that.
Don't go on.
And I said,
you can't go in and fire everybody.
Well, most of them I did. And I said, and then that break room y'all have, it's closed.
Oh,
go eat in your car.
The break room so messy.
It's closed. Y'all want to talk about me in my break room? So it was just a bad group. I feel like it was so toxic, but I always look back, me and my leadership team could have contributed a little bit, because you make me mad and you gonna know I'm mad.
Right.
But I did. I had to go in. I had to get rid of a lot of people that just didn't align with where I was going. One thing about building a business is things change.
Right.
My vision and mission where it was then. Oh, I should turn my phone off. Hold on, let me turn it off.
Okay.
Because she will keep calling back. My so it's okay when things change. My mission and vision where I started Kidsville 18 years ago changed over time, and it changed several times. And so as it changed, everybody couldn't go because everybody wasn't going with the new vision that I had. And I think that's what it was. I was expecting this, they was giving that and expecting that. And a lot of them were like not on board with the changes that I were trying to make. And so they just started, and then it just got bad, and I had to let you always know who the ringleader is.
You always know. You think we don't know, but you always know.
Always, and I used to tell my staff very transparently in meetings, I said, nothing you say around here is safe.
Right.
Contrary
they think we be lying.
I said, contrary to what you think, a lot of these staff like me. A lot.
And they
I
come
signed
back
their
and
check.
tell me.
So whatever you say, I promise you I know. And so I got rid of and so I was able to get rid of the bad apples and start rebuilding. And then my director took over, and then I saw it go back down, and then I stepped back in and took over and built it back up. And then with my director now, when I built it back up, one of the first conversations we had before she took over, I told her, I said, now these were your coworkers. Now you the big boss. You have to build a different type of relationship with them than you had when you were, in the classroom and stuff with them, or when you were the assistant director. And I said, they don't need you, but you need them.
Right.
So remember that. As long as you have your staff, your job will be easy. And so I told her to go in, and I had already built the culture up, everything. Everybody loved being there. I said, you not me, and I don't expect your personality to be me, but we still got to figure out ways to keep them engaged.
Right.
To keep them having fun,
right?
To keep them loving to come to work, even on the hard days when the kids are going crazy.
Right.
What are you going to do? And they have done an amazing job at finding ways to still, on the hard days, keep the staff happy, whether it's lunch, whether it's a game they're playing throughout the day, whatever they're doing, whether it's our staff outings they planned and things like that, to keep them engaged, and just random acts of kindness and appreciation has really helped build my team. And it's not always about money, but just, I see you.
Right.
You killing it, girl.
Right.
You know,
a lot of them just need acknowledgement.
Everybody don't need money.
Right.
So yeah, money great, but some people just, you saw me.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
You look tired today, Miss Stacey. Are you okay? This is going on, Miss Guy. You need to go home a little bit early today. It's okay. You need a mental health. That's a lot that you're dealing with. I take them too.
Yeah.
So now I've allowed my staff to have mental health days.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes.
If you ain't good for you can't be good for these babies and these families if you a mess.
Right.
So I think yes, I've had to build it back up, and this time around I have vowed to catch it before it gets too low. I went in my center probably about 6 months ago. I don't know, it just felt a little different. I mean, everybody was good, but it wasn't normal. So I started asking around. And one of my teachers said, Miss Galloway, the morale is pretty low around here. I said, well, what's going on? She said, I think it's just the time of the year. We're tired. We ain't really been doing nothing fun. And she said, but I know that Miss Tradina and them, we're going through accreditation again. I know they've been busy. She said, what if I do it? And I said, do what? She said, get a group of us together and we create the vibe.
Right.
I said, let's do it. They got 3 of them together. They call themselves the Kidsville Vibe Tribe. And now they create things every month for us to do in the building during work hours or whatever, to keep the spark and fun alive. And it has been great. And so, yes, when you see it, catch it, address it.
Catch it and address it. And so what's so important about us talking about this topic today is so many teachers are dealing with toxic work environments, and a lot of times it is at the hand of the owners or the leaderships, right? And this is something newer that I have been promoting and coming out with, but it's a Beyond the Bell teacher support group, right? And it's literally what it is. It's about pouring into lifting up these teachers beyond the bell, beyond the centers. I've realized that teachers need a place to have a safe voice. Teachers need support. Teachers Teachers need someone to help them with stress management. Teachers need someone to help them with emotional intelligence. Teachers need a safe space, right?
Yes.
And so when we provide them these areas and these comforts, we can get so much more out of them in the classrooms, right?
Yes.
But not all teachers have that Latrice Crawford
Yeah.
or that CoachStaceyB or whoever it is that kind of instill
Yep.
this great culture and work environment, and so I really wanted to bring this up because I definitely want to talk about your conference that's coming up. But before that, you said that you are an offsite owner, right? And the last thing I want you to talk to them about on this topic is, what do you wish more owners understood about their role in creating or fixing a toxic work environment? And I think this is a great segue into you being an offsite owner, because you had a toxic work environment and you had to do the work, and now you are where you want to be in your business.
Absolutely. You have to be willing to put in the work. It's not going to be easy to turn a whole business around, especially if your whole center is toxic. It's not going to be easy. But I think as an owner with great communication, building those relationships and listening to your staff and really going in doing the work, it could happen. Like I said, a lot of owners just like what they think it's not a big deal.
Right.
And if she want to go, let her go. Well, yeah, sometimes that's the case, but everybody leaving?
Right.
You don't want that.
Right.
You don't want that. And so it can be done, but as an owner, you have to go in and do the work.
Right.
You cannot expect your director to do it all.
Right.
I see a lot of owners that put so much on the director to do. It ain't all on her or him.
Right.
Some of it's on you.
Right.
And you have to go in and do the work. They look at you as, contrary to what you think, you are their leader. You are everybody's looking. For me, everybody looks up to me.
You have to set the tone.
Everybody looks up to me.
Yep.
So I do. I set the tone at my center, even being away. Like, my staff excited to tell people that they work for me.
Absolutely.
And so I think as an owner, it's okay to be off site. It's great. I love it. It has put me in the position that I am now, but I really did the work on working on myself, on building my dream team, on pouring into them and pouring into them continuously.
Right.
That's not a one-time thing.
Right.
I have teachers that have been with me for 17 years. You think I could have just poured into her 17 years ago and left her alone? No, it's continuous.
But not only that, I actually had this conversation in another interview, actually knowing what your teachers need.
My God.
Sometimes we think we're doing what they need, but we're missing the mark because we don't build those relationships, like you said.
Ask them.
Ask
them. You just assume this is what they need. And everybody don't need the same thing as well. Everybody don't need the same thing. So asking them, and again, I said it's a fine line. When you are like, oh, the relationships you build, you don't want to be their friend, you just want to give, but it's a fine line. And I think if you have that respect, it's okay. I have teachers that I will give a ride home. She's still like my friend, but I'm not about to let you walk.
Right.
I'm not about to let you walk. I'm not about to let you be hungry. You don't have no, like,
girl, let me feed
girl, don't you ever.
Right.
I one teacher I seen walking. I said, did you walk from home? She's like, yeah. Don't you ever. I will send somebody to get you.
Right.
You don't ever have to do that.
Right.
But and that's not for I'm just being a great leader, and I want to see my staff succeed.
Right.
I can tell when my staff is needing a mental break. I can tell when they need just some encouraging words. Yeah. Like, I can go in and say, I have one, she laugh all the time. She's got this bubbly personality. And one day I walked in and I said, hey, good morning. And she was like, hey. I said,
no, you didn't.
Hey. And she's like, hey. I said, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And she told me, and she said, you knew. I said, come on, I can tell. Like, come on, we always have our little,
right.
And you didn't get that energy, and she appreciated that. Later, she said, I'm glad you recognize that. I said, I recognize. I watch. I'm in tune. So stay in tune. It means a lot. So even though I'm not there, they still want to work for me, even though I'm not there, because I still am a big part. I still am in tune, and I still have a relationship with them.
So as we wrap up this episode talking about toxic work environments in childcare when leadership is the problem, give me one thing you want to leave those owners who are listening, those leaders who are listening, but also those teachers who's listening, who needs a voice.
So I think if you are working in a toxic work environment, if you are the leader, you need to get in there and do the work and fix it if you ever want your center to continue to flourish.
Right.
Because everything starts with at the top. It starts at the top with you, and you don't want that revolving door of teachers all the time in your business. If you want to continue to grow, you want to retain your staff, and I think go in and do the work. Ask them, have a conversation with them, do the work to build the relationships with your staff members, see what they need, see what the problem is, and create a plan together to fix it. Don't just go in there and ignore it. Don't just go in there and ask them. Don't just go in there and ask them and don't fix it. You know, if they don't want to talk, it's so many ways that you can anonymously get feedback. And then the last thing I want to say, which is probably a segue into where we're going, pour into your teachers, invest in them. And I hear this all the time. I want to invest in them because they may leave. I'm more scared to keep a teacher that I didn't invest in.
Absolutely.
And you know that I'm more scared of that than spending $100 on them, of course, because what they learn in that $100 can take your business up here and keep and retain your families, you know? And so as a leader, I think you need to invest in your team and continue to invest in yourself and put in the work to make your place the best place to work. You want to be the place where they want to work. And I promise you, when you build that dream team, your life as an owner, a director, is so much easier.
So, but as we wrap up this segment, is there anything else you want to share with the people who are listening on today?
Well, we can talk about Born to Teach.
Let's talk about Born to Teach. That's what I was ready for.
So I'm so excited.
Yes.
Second annual conference, the Born to Teach ECE conference, will be in Houston, Texas again, July 10th through the 13th at the Marriott Marquis. And I created this conference. Last year was the first one, but this has been a vision for years. I was just very scared to pull the trigger, but it has been a vision for years because being an owner for 18 years, I go to trainings, conferences, and I've had to, we have to go for clock hours and all these things. And I've been doing this for years. And I just feel like the times are changing. The staff that we're hiring are changing. They're younger. They need more engagement. They need more real strategies to deal with today's children.
Right.
And so I wanted to create a conference as well where owners and leaders and teachers could come together. I go to owners conferences all the time. I send my teachers to teachers conferences. Great. But how powerful it is if we can come together and learn. And then we can all go back and huddle and talk about all the things we learned and all the things we can implement versus you going and saying, well, this is what I learned. And they looking at you like, what?
Right. You trying to teach them what your perspective of what you learned were.
Then you coming back excited. Oh my God, we did this. And they like,
must be nice.
I heard after last year, the ones that did bring their leadership team and the ones that brought some of their teachers, they just went back together. The energy, the morale, they had another spark. They were the excitement after they learned so much together. So that's why I wanted to build a conference where everybody can come together. So if you haven't purchased your ticket, grab your ticket and bring one of your teachers.
Yes. Okay? Check the link below.
Yeah. Stop trying to stay and just owners. This is the last thing I'm going to say.
Go ahead. You got it.
Owners and leaders, owners, I'm going to say owners. Oh, they will spend to invest in themselves.
Oh, yes, they will.
But when it comes to investing in the people who really do the work, the people who are really on the front lines, oh no, maybe I'm not bringing them. I'm not doing that. Those are the people those are the people holding your business now.
Well, my theory on that, and I've talked about this before, it's because of trauma. A lot of owners have invested in teachers and poured into them and, paid for them to do this and brought them to this conference and sent them to this training. And then they go down the street for 10 cents more, right? But what I tell owners, even with the events that I do, you just need to put it in your budget. Create a conference trainings line in your budget. That way you're detaching the person with the event.
Absolutely.
You get so hurt because I paid for Sally to go and then Sally quit. Now you just have it as a pot of money. Insert person. That way, who's ever in that role, they get the benefit, they get the morale, they get to come back and build in your organization.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that I do think that owners need to. They need to put it in their budget.
Put it in your budget.
As something that you're going to spend. Stop attaching a person and a name to it and attach the event to it.
Absolutely. And it's something that you can't control if they're going to leave or not.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Just never invest in your team and they're going to always stay stagnant and your business is never going to grow because you're afraid that they leave. I agree with you. Put it in a line, put it as a line item. And I'm not saying you got to bring the teacher that started last week. you know, make them do something for it. I have teachers, owners doing contests. You know, I only bought 4 tickets, so 4 are going. So these are the requirements to be able to go. You know, put some requirements on it, but definitely invest in your team some kind of way, whether it's born to teach or not. You need to invest in them if you want to grow.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, I do the childcare teacher reset retreat, and what I do with my team is I don't pay for my team to go. My team, one, pay for their own registration tickets. They know this, and this is something months and months before the event they could decide whether you want $50 a check, $25 a check, however much a check to come out.
And you take it
They
out.
pay for their own registration fee. Not only that, they fundraise throughout the year because that helps us covers the hotel fee, the traveling fee, and things like that. And I do this because whether it's going to Born to Teach, any of the other conferences, Childcare Millionaires, Childcare Success, the Childcare Teacher Reset Retreat, this shows me their buy-in as well.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of owners have that, like I say, that trauma, because we feel like we do it all and then we get kicked in the ass.
Yes.
To be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
So we also need to be smarter about it. And I'm sure you may have created and have this as well. But even when we do conferences and trainings, I have a travel document and then a conference document. What's expected of you? What I will pay? What you will reimburse me if you no longer here?
And if you don't show up.
If you don't show up, everything
Absolutely.
like that. So on this, like you say, or like I say, put it as a line item in the budget, but then be smart about what you're doing. Like you say, buy 4 tickets and whoever X, Y, and Z, you all get to go.
Yep.
Make it fun for them, but also you can find a way for teachers to have a buy-in.
Yes, if you really want to do it. I love the fundraiser idea that we start our fundraiser April 1st to April 30th. And even though Born to Teach is mine, we still hotels and all that costs. So we do a fundraiser for our teachers to go. I had another client, she did a fundraiser and it sent her whole team to Born to Teach. So if you really want to invest in your team, it's ways that you can do it if you really want to do it without just breaking the bank and budget. And like you said, my teacher sign, if you don't show up, this is what you owe me, and it will come out of your check. And if you no longer work, that'll come out your last check.
Absolutely.
I have took some last checks.
And your teachers really want to do it. I'll say this one last thing. I typically don't have to do anything for the fundraisers. I just share. I invite. I tell people what's going on. My team, they come together. They pick the fundraisers. They get everything they need. If just this past Friday, we had a big supper. They raised over $2,000 for that. That's gone towards their hotel. So they can definitely come together and create these environments and events to help support them in doing
these. When I went to my center last week, I said, y'all figured out your fundraiser? She was like, oh yeah, the popcorn comes April 1st and we're doing it April 1st through the 30th. All you need to do is put it in the newsletter, have the team create the flyer. They put it together. I don't have to do nothing. So,
and that also cuts that toxic work environment, giving them tasks to work on together.
Yes, and trusting them and letting them have some take ownership of some things in your business. And they love that. Even like I said, the Kidsville Vibe Tribe, they took ownership of it. They love it because they're seeing the other staff excited about the things that they've created, and it makes them want to continue to do it. And then the teachers are excited because their coworkers, started this. So
this was a good conversation. I know that we have some owners, some leaders, and even some teachers who's going to get some good jewels out of this conversation. I want to thank you, Latrice Crawford, for coming in, sitting on the couch, and gracing the Childcare Teacher Chronicles podcast, where we discuss all things childcare, but specifically as it relates to the teachers. This is Coach Stacey B, and we are wrapping up another episode. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment. If you have not gotten your tickets to Born to Teach, check the link again below. Get your tickets, and we will see you soon. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.